Hello and welcome back to Cocktails and Crime. I am just your friend Ari, and basically just want to hear what stories that I think are really interesting, and I just kind of tell them why I sip my cocktail. Yeah, oh, it tastes good. Today I'm doing Captain Morgan caramel drizzle. Add Baileys to it, and if I had Kahlua, I would add a little bit of Kahlua. And then I put a little bit of cinnamon sprinkle on top of it. Okay, so it fell down to the bottom. I don't have anything to shake it up. All right, cheers. Okay, so this story really caught my attention. I kind of actually just stumbled across it. Looking at this and watching it, I'm like, what is going on? This man, he got away with like a couple of murders for like 30 years. And the crazy part is that he just kept doing the same thing. This is the story of Karl Karlsen. Let's get into it. When I was doing research, it didn't really tell me exactly like the actual day that he was born. I looked up several like articles and stuff, and they wouldn't really tell me exactly when his birthday was. All it really just said was, most of them said unknown, and then the rest of it said just 1960. So all I really know is that he was born in 1960 in Seneca County in upstate New York. He had 5 brothers and a sister. His father was a highway official for over 50 years in the town, and one of his brothers was a town councilor. So they really had a lot of connections because the Karlsen name was well known in that community. It didn't really give me much about like his childhood as far as like where he went to school and stuff. But I do know that he joined the Air Force when he got older, and that is where he met his wife, Christina. Now, Christina was described as somebody who was just warm, loving. She always saw the good in people.
I was her little sister. She didn't see bad in anyone. Even though somebody could have done something horrific, she would find a way to find something positive about them.
So now Christina has now met Karl and tells her sister Colette that, she's met a nice man. At the end of the day, she was just happy that Christina was happy. When she told her that she was getting married, she congratulated her, and she said that she would be down there to see her as soon as she could. So Christina and Karl get married, and they have 3 kids, Aaron, Levi, and Katie. At this time, Karl is working at a stone quarry in New York, and he gets laid off. And once he gets laid off, Christina's father, who lives in California, tells him, "Got laid off, it's okay, we're family, come to California, I'll make you a partner in my business, and we can just go from there." So that's what they did. They picked up everything and they moved to California to a town called Murphy's, which was in Northern California. They loved being in Murphy's. They would go on hikes, they would go on picnics, they would pick acorns, leaves, and stuff, and they just loved doing that with their mother. They loved spending time with her like that. Everything was really good when Karl was at work, but when he got home, things were kind of tense. He was more of like a really, really strict guy. He was always mad about something, and so him and Christina would argue a lot, but she would try not to argue in front of the kids. So she would basically just kind of take her and Karl in the room so they could argue, but they were so loud that the kids could still hear. At that point, Christina's kind of getting tired of it. Everything she does, Karl has a problem with it. Christina's younger sister, Colette, paid for her to get some glamour shots because she was turning 30. And so she thought that she looked really nice, and the pictures came out really nice, and she took the pictures. And when Karl got home, he was so upset that she took the glamour shot. He told her that she looked like a slut and to take the makeup off. And Christina was kind of getting tired of it. She just felt like at some point she wanted to be happy, and she just didn't have to deal with that anymore. I'm just gonna take a drink. Christina had enough. Planned on moving in, taking the kids, and moving in with her sister, Colette. So she just waited for the holidays to be over, and she was getting ready to move out, and she was gonna leave Karl. January 1st, 1991. Karl takes the kids outside to burn their Christmas tree. And as he's burning the Christmas tree, he tells them, "I want you guys to see how fast a house can burn." They watch their dad burn the Christmas tree, and then they all go back inside, and their mom prepares them to take like a nap. So as she lays them down, she lays Levi, which is the boy, in his own room. He has his own room. Then she lays the two girls, Erin and Katie, in their room. And then she goes to take a shower. Karl is upstairs working on a broken fan or something. Karl works on the fan, and he comes downstairs and then goes outside to his work area, outside in the garage, to work there. Karl says all he hears is Christina yelling, "Oh my God, Karl, get the kids." So he looks and he sees that the house is now on fire.
Karl says, the smoke's pouring out of the house, flames, and he goes up on the porch and to Levi's bedroom window and breaks the window.
Karl claims he sees his son there unharmed, so he reaches in, grabs his son by the hair, and throws his 5-year-old son out of the house and to safety.
He then goes to the other side of the house, breaks the window to the girl's bedroom.
He was just there, and he pulled us out.
After saving Erin and Katie, he said he returned to the house and tried to enter into the door, but there were too many flames.
He runs to try to go get help, but one of the daughters, I think it's Erin, says when he put them in the car and he told them to get down, they were young, so they all kind of looked up to see what was going on. And they see their dad walking slowly to the house, like in no rush to go and save their mom. They said that even before she was dead, they could hear her screaming, and he was already telling them, "Mommy is in heaven." Crazy part is that a couple of weeks before, Karl said that Christina had broken a window in the bathroom. So he found an old board and used 17 nails to board the window up. So when the fire mysteriously started, there was no way for her to get out because the fire started right by the door. Even if she wanted to break the window, she couldn't because it was boarded up with 17 nails. So she literally just trapped in her own prison. Karl's theory of what happened was they used kerosene heaters. They had a dog and a cat, and they were running around, and they knocked over one of the gallons of the kerosene right by the bathroom floor. Used towels to kind of wipe it down. And he believes that when he was upstairs in the attic fixing the fan, he was using a trouble light. So the trouble light must have fallen down, or he must have accidentally forgot to turn it off, and must have fell down and caught on fire. Christina, unfortunately, did not make it. It was just so heartbreaking hearing her dad talk about it, because people were literally coming to his door saying, "There's a fire over in this end," and he could literally see the smoke, in the air, and he knew that it was right over by where his daughter was. And so when he got there and he see everybody in the ambulance, he see the kids and he sees Karl, but he doesn't see his daughter. He knows that something bad, he knows that she just didn't make it. Even then, everybody was running around trying to figure out what to do to put the fire out, and Karl was literally just kind of standing around. Within 4 days after Christina dies, Karl has already packed up the kids and moved back to New York. 4 days. They said that Christina hadn't even been in the ground yet. They hadn't even laid her to rest. Karl had taken out a life insurance policy on Christina 19 days before she passed away. So State Farm thought that was kind of weird. The life insurance policy was worth $215,000. But Karl had already packed up and moved the kids back to New York, right? So he's gone. So they did a little bit of investigating, and they hired a guy to kind of go over what happened. And so he kind of came to the conclusion that the fire was not started from the trouble light accidentally falling on the pile of rags that had the kerosene. It was said that another amount of kerosene was poured on the floor, and the trouble light wasn't even the one that started it, because the trouble light wasn't even on. So they said somebody had to light the fire. So he finds that out, and even Christina's family doesn't understand it. It doesn't seem right that he was able to get everybody else at the house except for Christina.
This here is the bathroom where Christina was found.
The bathroom door is here.
Both of them evaluate the house, look through the ruins. It's obvious that they're suspicious.
Why he didn't knock this out?
They felt like that he had something to do with it, and especially since now they find out that you have a $215,000 life insurance policy out on her. And in 1992, he meets a woman named Cindy. He meets her at a line dancing club and he tells her his story. He tells her how he is a single father of 3 that had to save his children from a house fire where his wife tragically didn't make it. Cindy felt bad for him. He brings her to meet the kids, and she kind of felt that void in there, and they felt like, they had somebody that, they can now consider kind of like a mom now, since they didn't have their mom anymore. That's 1992. They meet each other, and in 1993, they're married. A lot of people said that the kids didn't really have like a normal childhood. They didn't really get to play outside and do things. The girls, his daughters, said that he was especially harder on Levi, his son. Felt like he was a man so he could take it. Levi was described as a smart, goofy, and creative type of boy growing up, but he had a hard childhood because he had a learning disability. So even though he was really smart, it just made it hard for him to bring home grades, good grades. So that made him and Karl clash a lot. Because they clashed so much, at the age of 16, Levi moved out. Once he moved out, he met a girl named Cassie, and they were together. They got married, and at 18, he had his first daughter. 18, he had his first daughter, and then 2 years later, he had a second daughter. He felt like she really understood him, but, young love, sometimes it just doesn't work out, and him and Cassie ended up getting a divorce, and they said that he took it really hard because he felt like she was the only person that was really there for him and understood him when everything, was happening to him and as he was growing up. After Levi and Cassie gets a divorce, Levi starts to come, back to the house since he had moved out. He wanted to try to rekindle a relationship with his father and his family, and so that's what he was trying to do. So Karl will have Levi come over the house and do like little things around the house. Just fix little things up, just to be around and just to be around his family and stuff like that. So on this day, November 20th, 2008, Karl asked Levi to come over to fix the car, right? One of the old cars that they have in their garage. So Levi comes over, and Karl and Cindy are getting ready to go to Cindy's aunt's funeral. So Levi comes over, and he's fixing the car, and Karl and Cindy are in the house getting ready. So when they're done getting ready, Cindy and Karl Cindy goes to the car and she gets in, and Karl tells Cindy, I'm going to go tell Levi that we're leaving and I'll be back. So Cindy says he's in there for like 2 or 3 minutes. He comes back out and they go to the funeral. So they're there about 4 hours. They come back and Cindy finds it kind of odd that Levi's truck is still at the house. And she's like, it's been 4 hours. What is he still doing fixing the truck? It's kind of weird. So she goes in the house, and Karl goes to check to see what's going on. All of a sudden, Karl runs back to the house and is banging on the door, telling Cindy, call 911, call 911, call 911, call 911. The truck has fallen on Levi. Cindy is like, what is going on? So she calls 911 and she's panicking.
911, what's location of your emergency?
I think I need an ambulance.
Okay, what's going on?
The truck fell on my stepson.
Are you with your son right now?
He's not alive.
Is he breathing?
No.
Okay, we're going to start CPR, okay?
Yeah, Carl, they want to start CPR. Do you know CPR? Chest is crushed. His chest is crushed.
Paramedics come in. There's nothing really they can do. They pronounce him dead. Cindy's just filled with like shock, and Karl is just losing his mind. And what happened was the car that Levi was working on was hiked up by like a single jack. Now, I don't really know much about cars, but I'm assuming when you are working on cars that the jack that you put under there should be sturdy enough. And because maybe it was a single, the car ended up crushing Levi while he was right under it. It's ruled out that there's no foul play because there was no autopsy done. The doctor signs off on it. But shortly after, Karl tells Cindy that Levi had a $700,000 life insurance policy out. And guess who was the beneficiary? You guessed it. Good old daddy Karl. Karl had taken Levi to an insurance company to meet with someone because he felt like he worked at a glass company, had 2 small children, and just in the event that anything happens, they needed to be well taken care of. Now, Karl makes the first payment in cash. Such a good dad. When you pay the first premium, is what they were saying is that you're kind of somewhat covered, but you also do have to undergo a medical exam to make sure that there's nothing wrong. Well, Karl and Levi failed to let the insurance agent know that Levi had a serious swallowing disorder. It made it difficult for him to swallow food. And once you undergo the medical exam, had they known that he had a swallowing disorder, or if they found that out, they literally would have canceled the policy or rewritten it. The day after he died is when he was scheduled to take that medical exam. How convenient. They say the devil works fast, but Karl works faster, okay? Even though Levi did not make it to the medical exam, Karl was still issued out the $700,000, which was supposed to go to Levi's children. He had a handwritten will naming Karl the sole beneficiary to all his assets, so to distribute out to his kids. Do you think the kids saw any of that money? Kids saw absolutely zero. Instead, Karl was going on trips with Cindy, new cars. He even invested in this gourmet duck business where they would like raise ducks and sell it to restaurants. Cindy said they went from like having 10 to 15, 20 ducks to having thousands of ducks. And that was extremely, extremely expensive. At this time now, Cindy's starting to get suspicious. And she's kind of just like, what the heck is going on? So she starts to get suspicious, like maybe Karl has something to do with Levi's death and maybe I'm next. You think, Cindy? You think you're next? Yeah. This is 2 years after Levi has passed away. Am I next? Yeah. I would say so, Cindy. Yeah, I would say yeah. So she starts to get really, really paranoid to where she's like sleeping with a knife under her bed. She's like having anxiety and she's like freaking out because she's kind of like, okay, all this is happening is not really making a lot of sense. What if he did off his son? I mean, his other wife mysteriously died in the fire and he got life insurance policy, and then he has life insurance policy on his son, and she hires a PI. And guess what the PI finds out? The PI finds out that Cindy will be worth $1.2 million if she's dead. I know Cindy was like, what happened? After Cindy finds out that from the PI, she calls her cousin. And she tells her cousin, like, I think Karl has something to do with Levi's death. And the cousin's like, keep in mind, everybody's in the dark. They're like, why would Karl have anything to do with his son's death? What does he gain by killing his son? And so Cindy's like, he gains $700,000 because that's what he got being the sole beneficiary to Levi's life insurance policy. So now the cousin's like, oh, really? 1 second. And she alerts the police and tells the police that she's a cousin of the family member. She feels like they should look more into Levi's death. Now, this is like 3 years after he's been gone. They feel like it was foul play. So at this point, Cindy has already left Karl. As investigators start to look into Karl, they start to see a lot of incidents where Karl is just, something that's terrible has happened and Karl is now paid out for it. So now they're thinking like, is this a coincidence or is this just something that he does? In 1986, he had a brand new Mustang that just mysteriously burned. There was nothing wrong with it and it just all of a sudden just burned. Paid $10,000 for it. And Cindy recalls a time in 2002, she had woken up, to Karl, like kind of hitting her, letting her know that their barn was on fire. They have 3 Belgian prized horses, right? That's worth a lot of money in there. That, of course, the barn is burning and they're unable to save the horses. So Karl is now paid out from the insurance $115,000. So now let's keep in mind of everything that's happened, right? So your car burned down in 1986. You got $10,000 from that, right? Your wife mysteriously died in a house fire. You get $215,000 from that. Your prize horses burned in a barn fire. He just like fire. That's his thing. We just gonna say he just like fire. That's his thing. You get $200,000 from that. Your son mysteriously died in an accident. You get $700,000 from that. And then if it just so happened, your second wife ends up passing away, you're gonna get $1.2 million from that. The police is like, wait a minute. wait a goddamn minute. What is going on here? So they get in touch with Cindy. At this time, Cindy is already having a conversation with Karl. So she basically tells him, if you tell me everything that's happened since we've been married and you tell me the truth, I will consider getting back with you. She goes to dinner with Karl. She has the recorder, and Karl confesses to killing Levi. And she's like, yes, I got him. So she's super happy. She goes back to the police station like, here it is. Listen. And they're like, okay. They listen and you can't hear anything they say. Poor Cindy. I know Cindy was like, you can't hear anything that's being said. So they're kind of just like, what did you bring us? So Cindy's like, no, I had a, he was saying he said, hold on a second. Before we do all this, are you going to be willing to wire up to try to see if you can get a confession? Cindy's like, I'm your girl. Wire me up. Let's do this. At this point now, you can imagine, Karl is like, you want to meet up again? You want to talk about the same thing we just talked about? I feel like you're setting me up. While they're talking, he's not really confessing, but he's like kind of confessing. So he's basically saying like, no, I didn't say I did that. But then kind of saying like, well, yeah, I saw it was an accident. So he's kind of confessing, but he's not confessing, but they have this all on tape. So that was enough for them to bring him down to the police station. Once they bring him down to the police station, the first thing he says when they ask him, do you know why you're here? He's like, oh, you want to talk about my dead son and my dead wife? Okay. He said he thought that Cindy was wired, and they were like, yeah, she was. And he was like, I had a feeling I was just telling her whatever, which I kind of just think is kind of weird. This is such a serious thing for you to say, I was just telling her whatever. It's so serious. And to think that you would play around and be like, oh, I was just saying that, just tell her that. Why? Why would you implicate yourself in a murder that you had nothing to do with just to tell her? They remember that Cindy tells the police that he's like a sympathy junkie. Like, he loves to hear himself talk. They start to move to something different, to where now they're like, okay, we know you're in the Air Force, we know you served your country, you know that you do what you have to do.
I walked in there to, give him his money, and holy and I just went.
He gets to the garage, tell Levi that he's leaving to go to the funeral. Truck is already on top of Levi, he's already dead. So now he freaks out, he panics, and instead of calling 911 or trying to get his son help, because he assumed he's already dead, he just gets in the car, goes to the funeral, acts like nothing happens, and then comes back 4 hours later and act like, oh my gosh, something just happened to my son.
Eventually claiming that he found Levi alive while being crushed by the truck, and instead of helping him, he was in too much of a shock to help before heading to the funeral.
It was an accident. I blame myself every day. So I opened up the truck door, stepped in, laid over the seat to move the linkages and all that, and it went into it just out.
He was arrested for second-degree murder and insurance fraud. He ultimately pleaded guilty to second-degree murder, so he didn't have to go to trial. As a part of the plea deal, he had to literally stand up, tell the court and the judge exactly what he did to his son. So this time, he admitted to actually jacking up the single jack, knowing that it was dangerous, and then pushing it on his son, killing him. He also admitted that he knew that Levi was still very much alive when he left. So he was sentenced to 15 years in prison. With media exposure on this case, Christina's family never, ever gave up. Christina's sister would constantly hassle the police or whatever. News and the media was talking about how he was accused of murdering his wife, his first wife, and his son. And California reopened Christina's case. Karl was convicted and charged with the murder of his first wife, Christina, in 2014, 29 years after her death. In trial, the judge allowed the prosecutors to bring every single evidence they had from all the other investigations, like as far as his son death, the insurance payouts, the other cars, the barn, the first thing, everything was brought to the trial. So he had all that against him. His daughter even testified about what happened that night when they said they saw him. The daughter also talked about how after he was arrested for Levi's murder, she saw him and she told him, I know you killed our mom. And she said he smiled. She's a Cheshire cat. and said, it's been 22 years. They haven't caught me yet, and they're not going to now. But not only that, when Christina, his first wife, passed away, her sister, Colette, came to the house and said, I want to see my sister. And this man literally told her, you can't see her. She's a crispy critter now. I would have taken off on that man so hard, I would be in jail right next to him. I would have been in jail right next to him. How dare you have to be a sick SOB to literally say that to somebody's family member? Karl was found guilty of first-degree murder of his first wife, Christina, and was sentenced to life without parole. I mean, are you surprised? I'm not. The most insane thing about this case is that Karl had literally taken out life insurance policies on Levi's daughters. Levi's ex-wife said that a few months before Karl got arrested, he literally came to the house and started telling Cassie, which is the ex-wife, that he wanted to rekindle the relationship with his granddaughters and that they should come to the farm. Not letting her know that he had taken out life insurance policy of $350,000 each on each of them. This man is crazy. He's serving out his sentence for killing his son Levi in New York, and once he's done, he will be out in California spending his life sentence on killing his wife, Christina. And so they've now moved Levi's body from where he was buried in New York, and he's now buried next to his mom in Murphy, California. So I thought that was a really sweet ending. It's just sad. Levi's daughters never got a chance to really, get to know their dad. They were very young when he passed away, and by his own father. Was money more important than your actual kid? And you expect people to feel bad for you or feel sad? You're getting everything you deserve. And oh man, hell is hot. The fact that he got away with this for so long. The fact that he kept doing the same thing. You just get greedy. And now look, you're in prison for life. Thank you guys for listening and having a quick little cocktail with me. I meant no disrespect. If I've said something that is not true, please feel free to let me know in the comments what I said wrong. Correct me. If you have anything you would like me to talk about or any stories that you think are interesting enough for me and you want me to speak on it, I will gladly do that. And I promise you my cocktails will get better. I just have to make sure that I get all the right ingredients before I start a story because I never seem to have them and I just have to throw what I have together. Okay? So I think you guys are amazing. Please like, comment, subscribe, share, and I will see you guys another time, okay? Stay sweet. Bye.